Hi, this is Free Media Live again. And we have an illuminating article on Yahoo by Reuters this evening. And basically, it gives a real look into what they're thinking in the Federal Reserve. It doesn't directly quote the Federal Reserve, but these people who on Reuters they can speak to people of the Federal Reserve off the record and get an idea of what's going on in their heads and talk to establishment economists. And basically what it says is the Federal Reserve needs to print a whole bunch of money because they're worried that we're going to go into deflation. They don't want prices to go down. They want prices to shoot up to keep the illusion going that the economy is somehow going to improve, it is improving, and everything is going to be fine. All we need to do is print a whole lot more money. If we look at the article, they're saying, well, it's going to be a nightmare scenario if prices go down. And they have a number of different points in the article about the inflation rate. They say the inflation rate hit a 3-year high of 3.9% in September, and it could fall to 1.3% by October 2012, according to the Federal Reserve of Cleveland. And that would leave the rate below the U.S. Central Bank's 1.7 to 2% comfort zone. They're talking about future inflation. They're trying to keep inflation up over 1.7 to 2%. They're not happy unless inflation is above 1.7 to 2%. The problem is that's a fairy tale. Inflation is not 3.9%, as we all know. Gasoline, food, everything has shot up. Yes, now prices have moderated, come down. Gas is down below around $3.50 or so, give or take 10 or 20 cents, depending on what part of the country. And everything is always going up. We all know that. So the idea that inflation is only 4%, that would be ridiculous and absurd. Anybody who goes shopping would know that, except, well, the elite. The elite in our country who may not shop for themselves and don't worry about the prices of gas and food and other products, since they get their funds through some type of government stimulated spending, the spending on Wall Street, or working directly from the government for the government, some type of lucrative job in the government, or also the private sector, which is funded through stimulus spending. All they're worried about is keeping everything juiced up, print plenty of money so Wall Street has plenty to speculate on. This is the part where those Occupy Wall Streeters come in. They don't even understand why the speculation happens. They stand there, Occupy Wall Street, and what are they talking about? The evil, greedy capitalists. Well, actual capitalism doesn't have anything to do with government bailouts, which are the opposite of capitalism. But articles like this, talking about nightmare scenario, U.S. deflation risk rising, they're worried that the stimulus, the government money printing is running out, and therefore the government needs to print more money. And if you go down here to halfway down, they have the title of the article, Money Printing. It's funny that they came right out and said money printing, because usually they'll say quantitative easing. Wouldn't want to actually say what they're doing, which is counterfeiting money. They call it, yes, it's money printing, but is it really, if you think about it, it's counterfeiting money. They're creating money that didn't exist previously by creating it. They created it on a computer that isn't actually printed, but it's all about their worries that prices are going to go down, and we need prices to go up to make everybody feel like they have a lot of money. Make our houses go back up. Inflate them to the sky again so everybody can feel happy. Borrow on their houses, borrow on their credit cards, go and spend it in the mall, go and spend it at Best Buy, buy new cars, just to continue the charade, the fairy tale economy that everything is fine, don't worry, be happy, just spend as much as you can to try to save the economy. But it's all a charade. And this article just details what they think needs to be done to keep it all going, which is to print more money. It says U.S. housing prices have fallen about a third since the pre-recession peak, and the S&P stock index is down about a fifth, and the commodities index has also dropped about a third since its 2008 peak, and 15% since April of this year. So that's their concern. They want to print more money to jack up all these prices again to try to stimulate the economy, instead of letting the whole thing wash out, let the prices go down to what their true level should be. Houses aren't supposed to cost $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever, depending on what part of the country. Houses are supposed to run between probably 50 to 100 to 200, 300, 500,000 should be a pretty fancy house, a large fancy mansion. Not $1 million or $2 million or $3 million. The average house shouldn't cost more than probably $100,000, roughly speaking, going back to a level where they were back 20 years ago, 20 years ago, even back in 2000, before the bubble had really inflated. The prices just need to go back to where they were, regardless of our individual situations. It's totally unrealistic. All of us, our houses were way up, and we've all theoretically lost a lot of money, and some of us, our houses are underwater. But it wouldn't help things to try to jack everything back up. The economy can't recover as long as they're trying to jack everything back up instead of letting it wash out. Let housing find a bottom so people will start buying houses without thinking that they're still going down. The possibility they're going down is keeping people out of the market. We need at least a year or two for the whole thing to wash out. Let the housing prices go down so the whole market can come back to earth and slowly build a base so that housing prices will, in time, go back to a reasonable level. Not a level built on government finance credit. The situation right now is totally absurd. We have thousands or hundreds of thousands of houses that are actually should be in foreclosure and are not, or the houses are foreclosed on and they're sitting empty because of the problems with the paperwork, the robo signing. But if they can get all that straight, get the paperwork correct, and let the foreclosures happen, because that's the only way to get the housing market straight. Unless we want to go to some type of communist system and nationalize the banks so that people don't really have to pay their mortgages anymore, and all the value of investors would be wiped out. I don't know if some people are wishing for that type of situation, some type of socialist system. So then everybody would just be stuck in the house that they're in. And that would be the end of the American capitalist system. I don't know if that's what Occupy Wall Street wants or not, but it certainly wouldn't be a better system. The government has totally screwed up the system that we have. They pumped up the housing market with all the lending, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Federal Reserve, gave the banks all kinds of easy money, and the banks took advantage of all the easy money, which they were supposed to do. When the banks have a lot of money, they loan it out. That's what banks are supposed to do. And then now the Occupy Wall Street people, they're screaming about the banks. The fact is, our government wanted the banks to loan out millions of dollars, billions of dollars, subprime or not. The government encouraged the lending. That's why interest rates were the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates so far down to 0.25%. Banks could borrow money from the Fed at the Fed window for 0.25%. So naturally, the banks proceeded on a lending spree, and supposedly housing was just supposed to go up forever. But that's an impossibility because people can't afford to pay the mortgages. That's what our government is responsible for. And the Occupy Wall Street people, they're in the wrong place. They should be right there in front of the White House, in front of Congress, in front of the Federal Reserve. Doesn't make any sense. But getting back to the article, this is what concerns the Federal Reserve, the nightmare scenario, deflation. They don't want deflation, they want inflation. But the average person out there, they don't realize or understand. They think it's all about how do we get more jobs by cutting taxes. Just cut taxes. Don't even worry about what the Federal Reserve is doing. That's what the Herman Cain supporters, Mitt Romney supporters, they think, oh, if we can just get our taxes and regulation under control, we can get our whole economy back in shape and everything will be great. Let's just pretend the Federal Reserve doesn't exist, and the Federal Reserve money printing, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just about growth, baby, growth. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Mr. Herman Cain, jobs, jobs, jobs. It's not all about, quote, standing on a podium saying jobs, jobs, jobs. It's about the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve keeps printing money, screwing up our economy, causing unemployment. We need some kind of sound money backed by real money, such as a gold, a gold or silver standard, which could really fix the economy. But that's not what people want to hear. They think it's just a matter of tinkering with the tax code, some 999 plan, or Rick Perry's coming out with some new flat tax. I don't know what the rate's going to be for sure. 18 to 20%, or I don't know. And Mitt Romney has his, I don't know, 165 point plan. But all these plans don't address the real issue of the Federal Reserve. That's it for today for Free Media Live.